many people are touting The Creator as one of the most original, a thought-provoking, a cinematic masterpiece, one of the best movies of the year, and I find myself wondering if maybe I saw a different movie. Yeah, we will dive into The Creator today. My name is EJ, and welcome to Flickering Myth. If you've been a part of our channel, thank you so much for tuning in. If you're not, make sure you guys are subscribed so you can see all my thoughts on films. We have guest stars, we have interviews. There's a lot going on Flickering Myth, so make sure you tune in. Now, enough of this intro, let's talk about The Creator. Oh my goodness, it is hard to walk into The Creator without a considerable amount of hype. If you're in the film community, if you have any friends who have talked about movies this year, this is often touted as one of the best of the year. This is something a lot of people have hyped. I actually haven't even seen a trailer for this movie before I watched it, so I went in just on the hype, the director's name, and that lead actor. I love John David Washington. I think Gareth Edwards is a talented filmmaker, so I sat down ready for this movie, and it's not bad. There's just something that it felt soulless in a lot of ways. For a movie about AIs, the struggles of AIs, the fear of AI, this movie often feels like it's written by an AI. There's just so much jam-packed into this movie that feels cliched, that feels been there, done that. While this has a very original idea, this is a good notion of story versus script. I like the story of The Creator. This has something there. There's a lot of conversations to be had. There's something that could definitely work, but the end product is too filled with way too many homages. We'll talk about the references of this movie, but it's also just a plain, simple sci-fi story. A man's just trying to save a child in a post-apocalyptic world. You know, vaguely post-apocalyptic. This movie's in a weird setting with what it's going to do with war, the effects of war. This movie has a lot of ideas. There's a lot of things presented here. I just feel like it didn't connect with me as much as it's connected with other viewers. There is, like I said, really, really smart technology. The way they filmed this, the science that they use, I'm very intrigued by all of that. It felt the most original. It felt the most fresh. But when I got to the story, the hero's journey, the 3-act structure, I was just so taken back by how predictable it was, how I knew every twist and turn when they revealed who the creator was. I was like, yeah, that was supposed to be a twist. Oh, let me act surprised. Okay. Yeah, it's just one of those movies that I find to be very well made, but maybe just a bit too overhyped for me. John David Washington stars as our lead protagonist named Joshua. He is a special forces agent, kind of retired from the business. He was on an undercover mission that really changed his life significantly, but he's also kind of called upon to help fight this AI battle. So there is a group of American people, mostly most of America, who believe the AI attacked them with a nuke attack, bombed Los Angeles. So we've started a massive war with anyone involved with AI, which puts us at war with this new area called New Asia. So it's New Asia and the AI versus the Americans. And John David Washington's kind of stuck in between. The Joshua character has kind of like feet in both worlds, and that's a big central story of this, is how he handles the battle between himself, the battle that's going on outside of here, and he's also trying to find his missing wife. She was attacked in that undercover mission, so he thinks she's gone, but a group of military people, possibly one of the worst villains I have seen this year, tell him, hey, come back in, let's do this mission, and it sends him on quite the journey, leads him to find this weapon that has been created to stop so there's this weird kind of thing that flows over New Asia that just nukes them when it finds any kind of AI. There's been an AI created that can stop that nuke machine from killing everyone, and he finds it, and it happens to be a child. And the journey they go on, the adventures, the heart and soul of this film is definitely the relationship between these two. But like I said, it feels so been there, done that. John David Washington, especially coming from the Denzel Washington family, where I'm like, oh wow, a Washington is saving a small girl in a movie. I've seen this before. I've seen The Golden Child. Like, you know, this is so many things. Like, the bare bones of this plot is like, okay, he goes to save a girl and has to protect this child. I've seen that before. So I was a little like, okay, what are we going to do? And it just kept unfolding to cliche after cliche after cliche. It's such a smart idea, such a original idea that it feels like the execution, the 3-act structure, the journey our characters go on just feels so pedestrian in a world that feels so over the top that I think this script deserves a better script. Like, the story is so smart, could be so handled. It could be handled in such a intelligent, a thought-provoking way. Someone like Denis Villeneuve, a Ridley Scott, back in the day, Ridley Scott, not the one we get nowadays. There's filmmakers who I think could have really brought life to this story instead of just making a very prestige, artful sci-fi film wrapped up in a pretty typical blockbuster shell. One of the biggest things that keeps me from loving this movie is I can see all of the inspirations that this movie has very clearly, to the point where I just got a bit kind of like, I would rather watch the movie you guys are talking about. There's so much Blade Runner, there's so much Platoon, there's a lot of other films, Terminator, there's so much, I mean, basically any Vietnam movie or any robot movie. Basically, if you're fighting robots or if you're in Vietnam, just mix them together, and that's all that the creator is. And I know I've liked filmmakers. I'm a big Tarantino fan. That man lives for an homage. He lives for referencing other films. But the way those references are handled doesn't feel like it stops to pause the movie to go, wow, isn't this beach scene very similar to my Rogue One beach scene? Doesn't this kind of bring you back to other things? It becomes distracting to a point. It just sucks you out of the movie because you can say, oh my goodness, I love these movies. And I obviously, as a person who's written scripts myself, who has made short films, I wear my references on my sleeve as well, but there's a way to do it that just doesn't distract you, that doesn't make you go, wow, I would rather just watch that film. Gareth Edwards is a talented director who directs his actors well. Nobody here has a very, three-dimensional character. They're all pretty flat. You get who it is. John David Washington, once again, is playing a pretty bland protagonist. But there is something that I felt could have been done better with the direction. Again, like I said, the director is strong, but he's so focused on creating such brilliant new technology, the way the AIs work, the kind of the AI world that there's here, the conversations between different countries, all of those are great, but I just wish they weren't dampered by such a been there, done that type of story. That's where this feels overhyped for me. I was expecting something on par with Arrival. I think Arrival to me is one of the most original, the most thought-provoking. It really stuck with me for years and years. Even Ex Machina, Annihilation, there is types of like sci-fi, horror, action movies that could be done better, be original, even if it's based on source material, that could still feel like I haven't seen it done 1,000 times. But from the cliched story to the reference points of movies like Platoon and Blade Runner, I just felt kind of let down by what this movie could have been. Well, everyone, that is it for my discussion for The Creator. I don't hate this movie, even though my review may seem a bit negative. I just felt like I wasn't connecting with this movie the way I anticipated it and the way other people were talking about this. This is definitely one of those award season movies that got overhyped for me and I saw a bit too late. Maybe if I would have seen it on the first wave with no impressions from other people, maybe my reaction would have been a bit different, but I'm using my review now to maybe temper your expectations. I see those positive reviews. I definitely want people to enjoy this movie. I know we're so desperate for a original film that we'll just kind of throw ourselves onto any old movie that just feels like it's not a IP or a brand, and we're just going to, blow it up and say it's so great. But I want to be the opposite of that. I want to say, this isn't as original or as new as I wanted it to be, but there's still something here to enjoy. So check it out for yourself. What did you think of The Creator? What did you think of my review? Share your feelings down in the comments below. Give me a thumbs up if you did enjoy, and make sure you subscribe to Flickering Myth. All right, everyone, let's talk about sci-fi films. Gareth Edwards, and let's talk about The Creator right down below.